This video goes over how to calculate the federal income tax withholding. This means that the employer withholds pay from the employee's paycheck. So the gross pay that's earned will be reduced and becomes net pay as a result of deductions. And one of these deductions is the withholding of federal income tax, and the employer will remit it to the federal government. Let's go over how to calculate it. In the sample problem, it reads, Maria files as married filing jointly. Very important to note, married filing jointly as the marital status. And she earned gross pay of $790 weekly. For each pay period, she makes a flexible spending account contribution. So 3% of it goes to her flexible spending account. And Maria checked box 2C on Form W-4. What does checking box 2C on Form W-4 mean? We'll go through that. And she entered 500 in step 3 of the Form W-4. And I'll show you that. And she did not enter any information in step 4 of the form. All right. So let's examine Form W-4. Maria checked box 2C of Form W-4. Let's go to Form W-4. Right here, you see Form W-4, which is employees withholding. And I'll go down to step 2C here. There's a check mark. All right, that's going to have implication when we look up the tax table. And this relates to multiple jobs or spouse works, and that's why Maria checked off this box. And again, it has implications that I'll go over later. The other part of the problem is she entered 500 in step 3. Here's step 3 where you claim dependents, and she marked off 500 here because she has dependent and 500 as the dependent credit. And that also has tax implications. I'll get to that soon. What else? It says that she did not enter any information in step 4 of the form. So step 4 here, it's other adjustments, meaning any other income that wants to provide it here for withholding, or any deductions, or she may want to have extra withholding, then enter it here on line 4C. Let's go back to the problem. Lay out the information. By the way, in this problem, we need to figure out the federal income tax withholding as well as the tentative federal income tax withholding. All right, laying out the information, the weekly gross pay as given is $790. And the flexible spending account contribution is 3%. We see right here, 3% of gross pay. So take 3% times the weekly gross pay, $790. That gets you $23.70. And flexible spending account is not taxable for federal income tax. So $790 will be reduced by $23.70, and we arrive at $766.30. That's the taxable income for federal income tax withholding. This is the amount that is subject to tax. All right. Now, the tentative federal income tax withholding amount, let's figure that out. That will be based on the weekly table in Appendix A, and based on marital status, married filing jointly, and we'll look at Form W-4, Step 2. All right, let's now go to Appendix A. Here's Appendix A in the back of your book. Look for 2020 wage bracket method tables, all right? And specifically, it's forms W-4 from 2020 or later, not the pre-2020. This is for the year 2020. And there are several different tables. You want to find the one that says weekly because this problem provides the pay period that is weekly. So look for the table that indicates weekly, and then based on marital status, look in this column here, married filing jointly, all right? Married filing jointly. And then it's either the standard withholding or the Form W-4 Step 2 checkbox withholding. Which one is it? It's going to be this one, right? Because that's what's given in the problem. Take a look here. Maria checked box 2C of Form W-4. And this indicates that she checked box 2C, all right, in step 2. And go to the form as you will see. Right here, this is step 2 of Form W-4. This box was checked. Therefore, we use this column here under married filing jointly. If it was head of the household, single, or married filing separately, then we would use these columns. Then we look for the wage, which falls in the range of at least $760 but less than $770. What is our wage? We had figured that out to be $766.30. So it falls in this range here. And then the intersection with the column heading, Form W-4 Step 2, checkbox. So it's 59. That is the amount of tax to be withheld. So 59 is the answer to the tentative federal income tax withholding. That goes here. And that is the amount of tax withholding as a result of the taxable pay of $766.30. $59 of that will be withheld from the paycheck. All right, but that's not the end of the problem, because the problem also indicates dependent tax credit. Let's go back on Form W-4 here. Step 3 of Form W-4, as given in the problem here. Maria entered 500 in Step 3 of the Form W-4. She entered 500 here. And so that has tax implication. What is the tax implication? Well, 500 divided by 52 weeks, because remember that this is weekly pay. So we want to figure out what is this tax credit per week, and that's $9.62. So the tentative federal income tax withholding of 59, we are going to subtract this weekly dependent care credit that we just figured out, and it comes out to $49.38 as the federal income tax withholding. Your question may be, what is the tentative federal income tax withholding? To understand that, go to worksheet 2 of publication 15T, and that's shown here. This is the worksheet where the employer uses to calculate the amount of withholding. And this is for the wage bracket method. If it's the percentage method, then it will be worksheet 4. And on here, there are different steps. First is the employee's wage amount. So to fill it out, now this worksheet is not needed for this example problem, but I want to show it here as a reference for you to understand. And you may need to do this worksheet in other assignments, all right? So $766.30 is the amount of the employee's wage amount. back here when we had calculated the taxable pay for federal income tax withholding. So that's the gross pay. That's taxable, all right? It goes here, and then we indicate the number of pay periods. This is weekly, so it's 52 weeks. Then all of that flow down to line 1H as the adjusted wage amount. Now, based on this figure, $766.30, we looked up the tax. And it comes out to 59. Recall we did that by looking in Appendix A, the wage tax bracket method. And we figured it to be 59 based on this amount of wage, taxable wage. And also the marital status being married filing jointly, as well as the checkbox of step 2, because we had checked mark here in step 2 of form W4, and we used that specific column and not the standard column. So that's how we get the 59, and that's the tentative withholding amount. However, that's not the final, it's just the tentative. Then we need to apply information relating to the claimant of dependents. In this sample problem, there was 500 independent credit. In other problems, there could be more. There could be child credit of 2,000 or more, depending on the number of qualifying children. In this case, it's just 500. So 500, as we show the information here on line 3A of this worksheet, then we divide by the number of weeks or the number of pay period. All right, there's pay period that's weekly in the sample problem, so that's why it's 52. We divide the 52 into 500, we get $9.62. Then we take the tentative withholding amount of tax, 59, minus $9.62 that we just figured out. It comes out to $49.38. And that is our tax withholding, $49.38. So this worksheet here does the calculation, and that's exactly what we had done before in the sample problem. And we can use this worksheet to figure out the tax withholding. That's a formal way, but we don't have to unless the problem assignment asks us to do so. We can just do the calculation by just laying out the information as we did here. $790 as the gross pay, and then we subtract the amount that's not taxable, so it comes out to $766.30. Then we look up $766.30 in our tax table, the wage bracket method, based on the number of criterias, being married filing jointly, the check mark of box 2C. We look in that column in the tax table, and then the wage here, $766.30 to obtain this number for the weekly pay, $59 as our withholding. However, we have dependent tax credit of $500, and when we calculate per week as in weekly pay, it comes out to $9.62. Therefore, the withholding is not $59. It's less than that because we are getting credit of $9.62 as a result of having dependent. And once we apply $9.62, our withholding will be less. It comes out to $49.38. All right. So the final result is we have taxable pay $766.30, but the amount of withholding of that is just $49.38 per pay period, in this case weekly.